JJ, November 9th, 2022. SEC and Big Ten playing football and basketball. We're going to talk football. You ready to do it?
I'm ready to do it.
Let's do it. We're going to talk about last week's game and we're going to make some predictions on a few of this week's game. Last week, JJ, you had 5 games that you predicted. How did you do?
I did pretty well. Team in Fayetteville let me down.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, they let you down too, I know.
Okay.
But also that team that wears orange that represents Knoxville, they let me down. Other than that, I went 3-2. How'd you do that?
Down Saturday for me. I was 2-3. Yeah. So I'm looking up. I'm looking to improve this week. Let's talk about the games that we had last week. The big one. Georgia, Tennessee.
Number 1 versus number 1. The AP number 1 versus the college football playoffs anointed number 1. Who would prevail?
Were you surprised by the game?
I was a little surprised. I don't think anyone had stifled Tennessee's offense like that. I was surprised. I was not surprised at the number of points that Georgia put up. I thought if Tennessee wanted to be competitive, they'd have to hold Georgia under 30. But what I was surprised was that Georgia, was able to hold Tennessee under 14.
If they were to play again, and we know they won't unless they're in a championship game or something. If they were to play again, similar results?
I think there's a similar result. There was some bad luck on punt with the punting situation, and there was some bad there was unfortunate. Tennessee found itself in an unfortunate situation with Georgia's punter downing it at the 1 that one time. I think that's hard to replicate. I think that was something that Georgia was lucky to kind of do, but other than that, I think Georgia was the dominant team. They dominated them on offense and defense.
Is Georgia the best team in the country?
They sure look like it.
Is Tennessee a top 5 team?
I would say they're still a top 5 team.
Okay.
Definitely top 10, borderline top 5. What would you say?
I would give them a top 5. I'm not convinced that the league, the college football teams, the top tier is as strong as they used to be. But I think there are some really, really, really solid and good teams out there. Really do.
Yeah.
Missouri, Kentucky. It was a game you picked last week. What's your take on Kentucky?
Oof, they got lucky. I mean, they've beaten Missouri, I think, 8 of the last 10 times that they played. Missouri thinks of it as a rivalry more so than Kentucky does, but man, they got incredibly lucky. I'm not sure if you saw that game, but Missouri...
Did not see the end of it. I watched part of that game.
Well, the way it ended was Kentucky had a bad snap on a punt and it went over the punter's head. And went back down to the 4-yard line, and he was able to get a punt off, and Missouri got called for a roughing the punter call.
I saw that.
And that was just a horrible way to lose if you're Missouri. And Missouri already had a horrible way to lose against Georgia earlier in the year, so you kind of feel sick for them. But Kentucky, they beat a team that they should have beaten.
As Al Davis would say,
what?
Just win, baby. That's what he would say. That's all. That was his saying. Just win, baby.
Well, Kentucky indeed won.
Okay. LSU, Alabama. Is the elephant in the room done?
Well, we don't know if Alabama's dynasty is done forever, but it's certainly looking like this season it's over.
Okay.
LSU really bounced back from, a rough start. They had a terrible loss to Tennessee. They had that opening night loss to Florida State on the road. Not on the road. In New Orleans. Yeah. Not at home, though. Yeah. But yeah, they control their own destiny as it pertains to winning the SEC. They could absolutely win the West, make it to Atlanta, if they beat Georgia. I mean, we might be talking about a 2-loss SEC champion if they deserve to make it to the college football playoff or not.
Who was the last 2-loss team to win a championship in college football?
It was those boys from the Bayou. It was LSU.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Could they do it again this year?
We'll see. Another, I believe a 2-loss Auburn team almost made it to the college football playoff in one of Gus Malzahn's last years.
Okay.
So I think if any team does with 2 losses can make it, it would be an SEC team.
Okay. Florida A&M. We both had Florida in that game. A&M is pretty much I has them and all their top-rated talent for the past 4 years. They are just disappearing quickly.
Yeah, people can see what's coming. A prize like second linebacker in the country, second overall linebacker just decommitted. I think everyone can see how this is going to end, and it's not going to end well for Texas A&M. Too bad for them. But yeah, so Florida beat them pretty bad. Texas A&M was very competitive in the first half.
Yeah, they were.
And they just ran out of gas in the second half.
Before we get to this upcoming week's game, let's talk about the other game last week that we had. We both lost. Liberty and Hugh Freeze coming to Fayetteville. Arkansas's 13.5-point favorite. Lost ugly by 2 points. What's your take?
Yeah, they were down 21-3 at halftime. Came all the way back to 21-19. 1 for 2. Didn't get the conversion.
Well. Some people say they didn't get the conversion. Some people say they did get the conversion, but
well, the record books unfortunately are going to show that they didn't.
Okay.
And that was a pretty ugly
loss. You saw
loss.
Did he get in on that 2-point conversion or not? I say he got in. Yeah. But as JJ said, the record book does not say he got in, so
it was an ugly loss.
It didn't get to go into overtime. Arkansas was on a roll. They tied it up. They would have gone into overtime. Liberty was just spent, shot dead. Their defense was hardly moving in the last 5 minutes of that game. They won it. They didn't have to go into overtime, but they were just totally spent.
Yeah,
you watched the game.
They completely outplayed Arkansas in the first half. It was crazy.
Yeah, and Arkansas so disappointed me by not putting in a different quarterback. The run game was invisible in the first half. The pass game was pretty much invisible. I would have at least shaken it up for 1 or 2 plays here or there, but head coach Sam kept it as he was.
There was exiting the game. There was questions about KJ Jefferson's health,
his injury,
and his availability going into next week's game. But anyway,
let's go on to this coming week's game.
Yeah, speaking of next week.
Yeah, this coming Saturday, Alabama. Oh, what you got?
We're going to only talk about 4 games this week.
Okay.
And before we get to those 4 games, we're going to talk about 2 from the SEC, 2 from the Big Ten. Why don't we talk about what we just heard last night, which was the college football playoffs top 4. So obviously Georgia supplanted Tennessee, number 1.
Jumped Ohio State.
Wins over the number 5 team in the country in Tennessee and the number 6 team in the country in Oregon.
Yeah.
So they
impressive wins.
They did so in dominant fashion for sure.
Both of those teams.
So they came in at number 1. Number 2 was Ohio State, even after a subpar showing against Northwestern in the elements with the wind. They only won by 14 points. They didn't cover. They still have an incredibly impressive roster, and they came in at number 2. Number 3 was Michigan. They're the best one on the resume is still Penn State. They have a lot of fluff on the resume. Honestly, we're still waiting for the. When is the game? November 26th.
It's the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think the November 26th matchup between Ohio State and Michigan. That's when we will actually see who the best team in the conference is. And number 4, rounding out the top 4, was TCU.
Undefeated
TCU. The 4 undefeated teams remaining left in FBS.
Okay.
For the top 4 teams.
Well, we know, JJ, that the best possible outcome at the end of the season would be three undefeated teams at the end of the regular season. That's the best it could be. because Michigan has to play Ohio State, right?
Very much true.
And it can't be a tie. So that means at least one lost team is going to get into the playoff.
Absolutely.
Hypothetically, give me your 3 best potentially one lost team. That includes Michigan and Ohio State as well. Excuse me. And all the other one lost teams out there.
Probably the teams that are ranked 6 to 7. I mean, I would go Tennessee. Oregon did get demolished by Georgia, but that was the first game of this season. It was, like that. If you're gonna throw away one game, that would be the one to throw away. So who are some of your contenders?
I will say a one-loss Michigan will have a super duper hard time getting to the playoff because of their schedule. If they lose to Ohio State, I can't see Michigan getting there.
So it might be better for the Big Ten for Michigan to beat Ohio State.
For the Big Ten's sake, Ohio State has a one-loss. Ohio State has a shot of getting there,
especially after Notre Dame just destroyed Clemson.
Yeah. But Notre Dame still is a 3-loss team. But if Notre Dame beat USC at the end of the season, that will definitely elevate Ohio State.
Yeah, absolutely. Ups their strength of schedule.
So and Oregon is really playing super well, but I cannot discount the first game of the season with Oregon because to me every game should count. And so that to me the best one-loss teams could potentially be Tennessee and Ohio State. I not knowing what would happen to Georgia. I'm assuming Georgia doesn't lose to LSU in the SEC championship game. But as of right now, I'm thinking the best one-loss teams between Tennessee and Ohio State. It depends on how well Ohio State plays against Michigan if they lose that game.
That's fair. How realistic do you think Tennessee's path to the college football playoff is?
Well, I think it's pretty realistic because, as I said, there is going to be a one-loss team.
Not Tennessee. LSU, if they win out.
Ooh, you know Georgia. What? I think LSU has a great shot of beating Georgia. If they beat Georgia, they in. They would be a 2-loss team that's in the tournament. That's my take. But then
how do you litigate the SEC after that? Tennessee versus Georgia. I know Georgia would have the head-to-head. So would you put Georgia in as the second SEC team?
If this is a close game, Georgia would have a shot.
Would that eliminate Tennessee? Because they probably would not put 3. If a 2-loss LSU won the SEC, they probably wouldn't put 3 SEC teams.
You're right. That absolutely would not happen. I would have to go with LSU first, and
then Georgia
second.
Okay. That's what I would want to do as well. All right, are you ready to?
Yeah. Let's talk about LSU's game this week.
LSU is a 3-point favorite.
And you know what? We can put an end to LSU's goal to get to the college football playoff game. Because this coming Saturday.
In Fayetteville.
This coming Saturday.
LSU plays Arkansas.
Down goes the Tigers.
They are a 3-point favorite. I am picking LSU to cover the 3 points. What say you?
JJ, have you not learned anything from me?
Did you just watch what happened to Arkansas the last time they played a college football game against the Liberty Flames?
And Hugh Freeze.
Hugh Freeze, he is a great coach. Can you name one player that plays for Liberty?
Yes, I can.
Okay. You're going to elect not to. All right. Anyway.
Why should I?
Anyway.
Okay.
So
I'm taking Arkansas. And the reason I'm taking Arkansas is because
Hope Springs Eternal?
No.
Okay.
Their offense cannot play this bad back to back. Their offense actually is really good. They just didn't show it last week. Every game except last week. They didn't show it last week. Their offense is better. But they did put it together in the second half. The first half, they had a field goal. And they got that field goal with like 20 seconds to go into halftime or whatever. Barely got it. It was like 48, I don't know. It wasn't a gimme field goal. So their offense is actually way better than what they produced. I think
19 points on Liberty.
I think it was extremely poor coaching and poor execution. But I just can't see it happening twice. So I'm taking Arkansas.
We disagree.
And JJ is taking LSU.
All right. Now for our final SEC game. It's between Alabama, Ole Miss. Ole Miss is the home team, but they're getting 12 points. Alabama's giving up 12 to Ole Miss. Who do you have in that one?
Boy, you know what? If Alabama lose a third game this season, the dynasty will officially be over.
When's the last time they've lost 3 games in a year?
Oh man, I can't count back that far, JJ.
I honestly couldn't answer that either.
But you know what? I do not have faith in Alabama. Mississippi has a pretty good offense. They got a decent coach. Alabama, once you start losing, the wheel can just come off. Even if you have better players, I'm taking Mississippi to cover.
I'm taking Alabama to cover. I think
Mississippi. I'm taking the points in Mississippi.
Yeah.
And JJ is taking
Alabama. I think Alabama matches up well when you have a one-dimensional offense. Mississippi can't throw the ball. So moving away from the SEC
to the Big Ten
into the Big Ten.
Let's go with the Beast.
We have
Let's go on the East first. The Beast.
Okay, well, we can do that. We can do Maryland versus Penn State.
Okay.
Penn State is home, and they're a 10-point favorite. Maryland has been fading a little bit down the stretch. I'm going with Penn State to cover.
I'm taking 10 points every day Maryland play. Maryland play Michigan. They played them well. I'm just going with Maryland. I'm going with Maryland. I like their offensive schemes. I think they can play. Penn State, to me, is a pretender. Although they did look really pretty impressive last week. But other than that, they've been a pretender to me. So JJ is given 10 points.
Yeah, I think Maryland can't really match the firepower of Penn State. And you are taking Maryland. So
I'm taking the points.
We have a disagreement.
Moving on to... You have been a giver, JJ. You've given points in LSU. You're giving points with Alabama. You're giving points with Penn State. I know you're still giving points when we come to this next game.
Well, I'll let you know. So I'm taking, this is Illinois versus Purdue. It's in Champaign, Illinois.
Oh, my old stomping grounds.
Illinois is a 6.5-point favorite. I'm going to be taking the home favorite. So I'm taking Illinois to cover and beat Purdue.
You're giving 6.5 points.
Yeah, I'll have them win by a touchdown.
JJ, altogether you've given 10, 20, 39, 29 31.5 points. You've been given all of them.
Well, sometimes Vegas makes the lines too big.
And I've just been taking points. But you know what I'm going to do?
What?
With Brent Bielema? I'm going to take Illinois and give those 6.5 points.
So that's the one overlap that we agree upon.
That's the one that we agree on.
So we both have Illinois and
giving 6.5.
Covering
Purdue.
Covering Purdue. Okay. All right. Well, that is this week.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Thanks for watching. And who day once again?
America. What's the word? WPS? Woo Pig Suey. We out of here. Peace out.